Welcome to Motivational Humanity. You are not alone.
Have you ever noticed that the moment your life finally starts to feel quiet, the moment you stop chasing everyone else's approval and start choosing yourself, certain people around you get uncomfortable, not loudly, not obviously, quietly, subtly, in ways that are hard to name but impossible to ignore. You are healing, you are building peace, and someone in your life is bothered by that. And here's what nobody tells you: it has nothing to do with you. Today, we're talking about the 7 signs that someone is secretly jealous of your peace, and the psychology behind why they can't stand to see you become whole. If you have been on this earth for more than 5 decades, you have earned something that most people spend their whole lives searching for. You have earned perspective. You have survived things that would have broken someone younger. You have lost people. You have rebuilt yourself more than once. You have learned, sometimes the hard way, that peace is not something that just happens to you. It is something you choose over and over, in small, quiet moments, against a world that keeps demanding your noise and your chaos and your sacrifice. And maybe, somewhere in these last few years, you started to choose yourself. Maybe you stopped saying yes when you meant no. Maybe you walked away from relationships that only took. Maybe you found a morning routine, a prayer, a garden, a walk, something that belongs only to you. Maybe you stopped explaining yourself, and something shifted. But here is what also happened, and this is the part that can feel so confusing and painful. Some of the people closest to you did not celebrate that shift. They pulled away. They made small, cutting remarks. They seemed irritated by your calm. They questioned your choices. And you found yourself wondering, what did I do wrong? You did nothing wrong. What you did was grow. And growth, especially women's growth, especially quiet growth, can feel like a threat to people who are still stuck. Let us talk about what that actually looks like. There is a particular kind of person who, every time you share something good, finds a way to make it smaller. You tell them you have been feeling more at peace lately. They say, well, wait until something goes wrong. You tell them you set a boundary with a difficult family member. They say, I hope you don't regret that. You share a small victory, a trip you planned, a decision you made, a moment of clarity you finally reached. And somehow, by the end of the conversation, you feel less than when you started. Psychologists call this minimization. It is a defense mechanism. When someone cannot tolerate your growth, because it reminds them of their own stagnation, they unconsciously try to shrink what you have done to make themselves feel better. It is not always intentional, but it is always painful. Here is the metaphor I want you to hold on to. Imagine you have just planted a garden. You have watered it, protected it, stayed patient with it. And one morning, you walk outside and there is a single bloom, the first one. A jealous person doesn't see the flower. They see the weeds you haven't pulled yet. That is not feedback. That is fear. Their fear about what your garden says about the garden they never planted. This one is so specific and so exhausting that many women recognize it immediately when I name it. You finally have a quiet weekend. You were looking forward to it for weeks. And then, almost on cue, someone in your life erupts. A crisis, an argument, an urgent problem that only you can solve, a guilt trip delivered just casually enough that you cannot quite call it out. And suddenly your peace is gone. Is it always intentional? No, but it is a pattern. And patterns are always worth paying attention to. Here is the psychology. Some people have what researchers call an intolerance of others' equanimity. When the people around them are calm, it amplifies their own inner chaos. It is like walking into a quiet room and feeling, without knowing why, that the silence is an accusation. Your peace becomes a mirror, and what they see in that mirror frightens them. So they create noise, not because they are evil, but because they are drowning, and stillness feels like sinking. The tragedy is that you end up paying the price for their drowning. I want you to hear this clearly. Their chaos is not your emergency. You are allowed to stay on the shore. You seem so relaxed lately. Must be nice. Oh, you have time to do that now. I guess some of us just have it easier. These are not compliments. They are compliments with a splinter in them. You feel the warmth for a second, and then, ouch. In psychology, this is sometimes called a sarcastic affirmation, or, more colloquially, a backhanded compliment. The surface is kind. The undertone is resentment. And the cruelest part is that when you try to respond to the resentment, you look like you are being too sensitive. Because technically, they said something nice. Here is a short story that explains it well. There were two women who had been friends for 30 years. One of them, after a very long and difficult season of life, finally started to find her footing. She started walking in the mornings. She joined a small book group. She stopped answering calls after 8 p.m. The other woman, who had not yet started her own healing, began to say things like, "You've really changed." Said not warmly, said like an accusation. One day the healing woman asked her gently, "Do you mean that as a good thing?" The silence that followed said everything. She had changed. And that change made her friend feel left behind. When someone gives you a compliment that stings, do not dismiss the sting. It is telling you something true. You decided not to attend a family event that drains you. You chose to stop lending money to someone who never repays it. You cut back your hours. You moved closer to nature. You started going to therapy. And certain people in your life cannot leave those decisions alone. They bring them up again. They ask questions wrapped in concern. But are you sure? Don't you think you should? What will people think? Here is what is really happening beneath that concern. Your decisions, particularly your peaceful, self-respecting decisions, represent a road they have not taken. And instead of feeling inspired, they feel implicated. When you say, "I am not going to keep explaining myself to people who don't listen," what the jealous person hears is, "You should have done this too, and you didn't." Your peace becomes a critique of their choices without you ever saying a word. This is one of the most important things I want you to understand. You do not have to defend a life that is working. You do not owe anyone an explanation for choosing yourself. People who are genuinely happy for you will say, "That sounds wonderful. How did you get there?" People who are threatened by you will say, "But don't you think?" Learn to hear the difference. Pay close attention to when certain people show up in your life. Are they there for your joy? Do they call when things are good, just to share in the lightness with you? Or do they seem to appear, reliably, almost magnetically, when you are struggling? There is a name for this in psychology: misery affiliation. Some people bond around pain. They are most comfortable with you when you are in the same trench they are in. When you climb out of the trench, they do not know what to do with the person standing in the sunlight. It is not that they hate you. Sometimes they genuinely love you. But they love the version of you that needs them. The version that is suffering. The version that confirms that life is hard and peace is not really available to women like you. When you find peace, you challenge that belief. And that is deeply unsettling. You will know this person because when you are doing well, the calls get shorter. The visits get fewer. The energy gets a little cooler. And when you hit a hard patch, they are suddenly right there. That is not friendship. That is need dressed up as loyalty. You deserve people who can celebrate your seasons of light, not just witness your seasons of darkness. You used to be so fun. You've gotten so serious. I miss the old you. Translation: I miss the version of you I could predict. The version that didn't threaten me. The version that needed me. One of the quietest signs of jealousy is this persistent pull back toward who you were before you started healing. Because healing changes you. It is supposed to. You become more selective, more honest, more boundaried, less available for things that cost you your peace. And for people who were comfortable with your old patterns, You're people-pleasing, you're over-explaining, your tolerance of mistreatment. This new version of you is a problem. Here is the hard truth. Sometimes the people who loved the old you did not love you. They loved what you did for them. They loved your compliance, your availability, your need for approval. When those things change, they do not know what to do with you. This is not a reason to go back. The caterpillar does not return to the cocoon because the cocoon was more comfortable. The transformation was the point. You are not required to shrink back into a version of yourself that fits someone else's comfort zone. This is perhaps the most quietly heartbreaking sign of all. You share something wonderful, a trip you planned, a health milestone, a relationship that is finally healthy, a grandchild's achievement, a personal goal you reached. And the person you told, someone you love, cannot quite get there with you. They smile, but it does not reach their eyes. They say the right words, but they change the subject quickly. Or they immediately share their own story, not to connect, but to redirect. Psychologists call this inability to celebrate others' good fortune malicious envy. But in its milder, more common form, it is simply constrictive envy. The person is not actively wishing you harm. They just cannot expand enough to hold your joy. And you feel it. Women especially feel it. That slight deflation after sharing good news with the wrong person. Here is what I want you to know. That deflation is not about you. It is about their ceiling. Their inner world is so crowded with what they do not have that there is no room for what you do. The right people, your people, will clap for you with their whole hearts. Find them. Protect them. And stop auditioning in front of an audience that will never give you a standing ovation. I want to close with something that I hope you carry with you long after this video ends. Peace, real peace, is threatening to people who have not found it yet. Not because peace is arrogant or loud or unkind, but because peace in a world that profits from our anxiety is an act of quiet revolution. When a woman of your experience, your history, your hard-won wisdom chooses stillness, when she stops performing for approval, stops shrinking for comfort, stops explaining herself to people who were never really listening, she becomes something powerful. She becomes undeniable. And undeniable women make insecure people uncomfortable. That is not your problem to solve. That is theirs. You did not spend these decades of your life raising families, building careers, surviving losses, rebuilding yourself, just to spend your most liberated years managing other people's discomfort with your freedom. The jealousy of others is a compass. It points directly at the things you are doing right. Let me say that again. The jealousy of others is a compass. It points directly at the things you are doing right. So when someone cannot celebrate your peace, let that be a reminder that your peace is worth protecting. When someone minimizes your growth, let that be a reminder that you have grown. When someone tries to pull you back into who you were, let them pull at the air where you used to stand. You are not going back. You have worked too hard for this quiet, this wholeness, this you, and no one's discomfort, not even someone you love, is worth the price of undoing it. If any part of this video felt like it was speaking directly to you, if you recognized a person, a pattern, a feeling, I want you to do something for yourself right now. In the comments below, type the words, I am reclaiming my peace. Not for me, not for the algorithm, for you, as a declaration, as a reminder, as a stake in the ground that says, I know what I have built, and I am not going back. And if you know a woman in your life who needed to hear this today, please share this video with her. She may not have the words yet for what she is feeling. Let this be the words. I will see you in the next one.